Hi guys, welcome back to another makeup video. As you've seen from the thumbnail, today's video is a pretty extravagant graphic eyeshadow. It's inspired by this picture here, which I'll insert here if I can. And I just saw it and I just thought it was so cool. And my partner actually said to me, "How does anyone even do that?" And I just thought it was really interesting because as a makeup artist, I could immediately see how to do it. I really wanted to recreate it, so that's what we're doing today. But enough of the chatting and let's get straight into the video. So we're starting out with a Pritt stick to glue down our brows, and to do this I basically just ruffle the glue stick back and forth through the brow. It feels horrible, but you've got to get the glue on all sides of the hairs to get it properly stuck down. And then just taking this little disposable spoolie and brushing my eyebrows as hard as I can, very flat to my face. And sometimes I'll run my finger over them as well afterwards to make sure they're nice and flat. And then I do a couple of layers of this. Obviously I only ruffle through the first layer and then the rest we just smooth the glue straight over. And you can do as many layers as you want, really, as many as it takes to glue down your brows. I think I did 2 or 3 on each brow, and they're just making sure it's all flat. And these are never going to be perfect. The only way you can get them perfect is by using prosthetics or a lot of glue. But then for the final layer, which makes them a bit more perfect, I'm taking setting spray and I just spray that onto the glue stick to make it wet. You can just use water, it's the same thing, but I had this to hand so it was easier. And I just smooth that over the brow one last time like I'm gluing them down, and this just creates a very smooth base on top. It just thins the glue. And then here I just decided to set with a bit of translucent powder. You don't have to do this, but it just made them a bit flatter. And then for colour corrector I have actually cheated and used a red lipstick because I didn't have my colour corrector to hand and I'm lazy, so we just took a bit of red lipstick on a brush, blended that over the brows, which will counteract the darkness of the brows. And then I set this in place so that it didn't smudge underneath any concealer that we put over top as well. And just brushing off that loose powder before we go in with any more cream product because we don't want there to be an issue with the application. And I'm taking this Kryolan colour wheel. I chose to use this because it's quite a thick product and it will definitely cover the red. I've put it onto the back of my hand to warm up the product a bit to make it easier to apply because it can be very thick otherwise. And taking quite a dense, what I would use as a foundation brush just to cover more area and do less blending and more just applying on top. I've applied that straight over the brow, and then I'm taking a smaller brush just to blend the edges because I don't want to move that product that is on top of the red colour corrector because we will end up with some red showing through. And then just setting that with a generous layer of translucent powder again, and the brows have disappeared. And then just taking in my Maybelline Fit Me concealer to add a base to the eyes before we start with any eyeshadow. And I just blend this with a nice dense but fluffy brush, and this blended perfectly into the brow bone. To start the eyeshadow, I'm using a colour from the Revolution Pro's little decantable products palettes. I haven't used these very often, but I thought this would be the perfect colour, so I took it out. And yeah, just took a very small face painting brush to sketch out the area that I wanted the eyeshadow to fall, almost like the graphics of it, like we saw in the inspiration photo. And then just switch into a flat brush with more of that purple product on it, and I'm just laying down the transition shade almost. I suppose it's not a transition shade because we're not blending outwards, but the first layer of colour onto the eye. And then I decided this product was actually quite light, so we took an oil paint palette. This is the Athena palette, I got this off Amazon, and taking the purple shade, just creating those fine lines again with the crisp edges with more of a wet product because it just made it much easier, and we created a more solid darker line, which is what we wanted. And then for more shades, we're taking the Beauty Bay Bright Mattes palette. I'm taking the darkest shade on a different brush, but it is still quite a small brush, And I'm basically blending the darkest shade of purple from the edges because I want it to be very harsh. And then we switched to an orange because we're sort of doing an orange to yellow shade as you've seen in the inspiration. Starting with the orange to blend into the purple. And this is like quite a small brush, but it's still fluffy because we want to concentrate the product in a certain area, we don't really want to blend. And then slowly going into the yellows, and then we do the same on the little bit of the front of the brow. And just working all those products together to get the perfect blend. And then switching to the next part of the eye. This is the red eyeliner, funky eyeliner. So starting with the same oil paints we used for the purple, and following that original line of the eyeshadow that we've created already, and almost like going symmetrical to it alongside it. And I've switched to an angle brush to take a powdered eyeshadow, again the brightest red, and we're just setting on top of that oil product so it doesn't transfer onto the eye, and we also get more of a matte solid colour. And then, as you've seen in the inspiration, the edge of the eyeliner isn't actually a point, it's basically the same pattern as the top. It's almost like a blob, if that makes any sense, like a curve. So we're just drawing that on, filling that in, and setting that over top with powder as well. And then going back in with that purple oil paint that we used earlier, I'm going to follow the line of the original eyeshadow down alongside the red liner, and just do this simultaneously to it. And same as in the cat eye, we're just drawing the same point to the corner, a very fine line. And then here I'm going over that with the powder purple as well to set it in place. And there's the other eye done as well. Moving on to skin, I'm taking this L'Oreal Paris Infallible Matte Foundation. I haven't used this in ages. Yeah, that happened. Just blending this into my face with a dense brush. This is quite a pale foundation, but it matches my neck, so that's where we're at with that. And then taking my concealer under my eyes, ready to do the under eye as well. We want to get right up in there so that we can carry on with the eyeshadow underneath. I always like to blend my under eye concealer with a small beauty blender. I just think it's so much more precise and I can really pat it in and get the most coverage out of it. Setting that in place with the same translucent powder. I believe it's a Revolution one. And then for bronzer, we're just using my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush bronzer. This is in the shade medium, and I'm just doing this on all of the points I would normally bronze, and building up that colour back in the face. Then this is the Painted Pink Drink blush, and this is literally taking one dab of the brush, I'm not joking, one dab in the cream product. It is so bright, so really don't go heavy handed with it. And then setting that over top with the same product but powder. And then I put a bit of this champagne coloured Revolution highlighter on just to give the look a little something, and I always like to go on my nose and on my upper lip as well to give a little something behind the lip liner. Now back to eyes, we're doing the under eye, and basically we're just going to join this half cat eye that we started to the bottom to create a full winged cat eye in the inner corner, using the same powder product on the underneath as we did on the top, and then blending out that little edge of the eyeliner and creating it as more of an under eye blend rather than a harsh line. And then with that fine brush and the purple liner again, we're following that line right down into the corner and going underneath the cat eye as well, just to give it that more graphic outlined look. And then onto lashes, I'm taking that same red oil paint that we used for the liner for mascara. And now this isn't very long lasting, but I'm obviously not wearing this look out. Well, I might be, you never know, but I'm not. So just using a little oil paint as mascara to colour the lashes on a spoolie again. And then for the adornment on the inspiration photo, I'm taking these little white pearls and I've actually rubbed like a dark shimmery eyeshadow onto them, and it just basically gave them this metallic piercing look. And then we're taking just a cheap Primark lash glue, putting the dots on the centre of the face with a cotton bud, and then we're applying those gems once that glue has dried clear. Here you can see me literally drop my gem and get so angry because this is not the first time I've done it, and I actually lost this gem, so I had to remake another one. And what you know, obviously I found it after I glued the new one on. And then we're taking this liner palette, I think this is again from Beauty Bay. I'm taking the purple shade and I'm using this as a funky lip liner. We're not doing a coloured lip, just a colourful lip liner like in the inspiration photo. So just following the line of my lips, making sure it's a nice crisp line either way because we don't want it to blend into the actual lip for the final result. So we just want a perfect outline. And then we're just going to go in with a clear gloss at the end. Glossing them lips up, ready for the finished result. And that is the finished makeup look. I really hope you guys like how this one turned out. I'm really pleased with it, and full credit to the creator who first did this, but I cannot find her username anywhere. But you've seen the image and it was all her, and yeah, really pleased how this turned out. So guys, that is the end of today's makeup video. I really hope you enjoyed this very abstract, funky eyeshadow look and lip liner. I really enjoyed making this and I love how it turned out. And there'll be plenty more content where this came from over on my TikTok and my Instagram pages, which will all be linked in the description box below, so please do check them out. I would love it if you guys enjoy my content, if you checked out my TikTok too, because there's lots over there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys back here next week for another makeup video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.